the 24-25 season has come to an end, and what a season it has been. We were coming off the back of a second successive relegation battle that once again went right down to the wire, but that wasn't helped by a points deduction. As a result, many pundits and influencers had us going down, but oh boy, did we prove them wrong. Yes, this is my review of the Nottingham Forest 24-25 Premier League season, and what a journey we've been on, to say the least. But let's go back in time to the summer and our first transfer window under Nuno Espirito Santo. Did we have him in winter last season? I can't quite remember. This was a very important window as we kept hold of our most important players, with the likes of Murillo and Gibbs White remaining at the club despite our successive low league finishes. We were also quite active in the window, once again. When are we not? Bringing in some quality players with the likes of Elliot Anderson and Nikola Milenkovic being the two standout signings. We also saw many players depart, fetching some hefty fees for the likes of Niakate, Mangala and Vlachodimos, which helps us avoid any PSL violations. Shout out to Leon on Newcastle. You boys got a bit fleeced, I must admit, but thank you nonetheless. Harry Arter finally left as well, so things were really looking up at this point. Nuno got a full pre-season under his belt, which was extremely important as we showed positive performances throughout the pre-season tour. The common mantra is not to read too much into the results of pre-season matches, but after a positive pre-season, we also had a very good start to the season. So I think there's a little bit of a connection between the two. If you have a good pre-season, you're bound to have a decent start to the campaign as well. And that's a hill I will die on. It was this positive pre-season which I believe allowed us to go unbeaten in our first 5 games, which included that phenomenal win away at Anfield to a team who eventually won the Premier League. Couldn't beat Forest though, but we'll come to that soon. I believe this positive pre-season contributed to the good feeling surrounding the club, which was very instrumental in our strong start. So let's move on to the league now, and we were blessed with home fixtures to not only start, but to also end our season. Phenomenal scenes once again. We kicked off the campaign against Bournemouth, a team we had yet to beat since gaining promotion, and that remained the case as we drew 1-1. But hey, it wasn't a loss, so that's something at the very least. We then had our first away trip of the season as we travelled to the south coast to play newly re-promoted Southampton, in which we won 1-0. A tight margin, but as a team that has not really performed that well away from home, this was a big win and just showed that this season was going to be very different. We were then knocked out of the EFL Cup by eventual winners Newcastle. It went to pens on which we fell short, but I guess if you get knocked out by the champions, it ain't the worst thing in the world. I mean, we were not playing our first choice side by any stretch of the imagination, and Jota Silva scored in his debut, so there were positives, but we did get knocked out, so, you know, not the best. We then went on to draw against Wolves at home, before grabbing that famous win away at Anfield. It was the first Forest win at Anfield since 1969, and it also ended the perfect start to Slot's Liverpool. Sorry, Baldy, there's another bold man in charge. And this match, right, I think this got under Slot's skin somewhat, because in many press conferences since that match, he mentioned Nottingham Forest in one way or another. But it was gold nonetheless, and lent to a brilliant chant by the time they visited the City ground.
They're in your head, in your head.
We then went on to draw against Brighton, and this match bore witness to more terrible refereeing in the Premier League against Nottingham Forest, as Morgan Gibbs-White, Nuno Espirito Santo and Fabian Hüsler all saw red. And of course, it was Robert Jones dishing out the cards. Great stuff. We finally returned home with our league tie against Fulham. The Cottagers handed us our first loss of the season as we lost 1-0. We almost forgot what losing felt like at that point, but we definitely missed Gibbs-White in that match. We just couldn't get going. We tried a 4-4-2 and it didn't work. Surprising that, hey. A draw away against Chelsea followed, seeing another red card. This time it was for James Ward-Prowse as he handled the ball to stop a Chelsea attack, which, you know, was a very valid card. It's about the only thing of note he did in a Forest shirt, but James, we thank you for it anyway. Nuno was then suspended for the aforementioned situation in Brighton. Not to worry though, we have Rui Pedro Silva at the wheel, baby. We then went on to win our next 3 fixtures. Very nice. As we beat Palace, Leicester and West Ham, with Chris Wood scoring 4 times in those 3 matches. Some player. And this run of results was enough to earn Nuno the Manager of the Month award for October, despite only being in charge for 1 October game. It's just what he does. He doesn't even have to be in the dugout to win Manager of the Month. Some manager, man. Some fucking manager. We followed that up with another home loss against Newcastle, but Moreno did grab his first goal in the Garibaldi, so it was a very bittersweet moment at least, and he whipped out a brilliant celebration as well. We then lost to Arsenal, but in response to that we beat Ipswich at home, and Chris Wood bagged yet another goal. We then visited a Manchester City side that were in some of the worst form of their life. They hadn't won a game in 7 matches, before the boys in red visited the Etihad, and for some reason we gave them too much respect, too much space, and got rocked 3-0. Really wasn't good viewing, I'll tell you that much. We responded by visiting Old Trafford and narrowly grabbing 3 points against City's rivals with a 3-2 win. Our first win at Old Trafford since 1992, and we did so in some style. We followed that up with a 2-1 home win against Villa, which, even now the season's concluded, was the only game in which we conceded first and came back to win. That is a shocking stat, but it's real. Quite frankly, I'm not surprised, but it's still very disappointing, and something in the mentality needs to change for next season if we're going to go behind and still think we can win a match, because happening once this season is crazy. It was Milenkovic and Elanga which grabbed the all-important goals, both of which came after the 87th minute. We really fought to the death on that one, and I thought a page had been turned, but apparently not. We followed that up by beating Brentford 2-0 in London, which put an end to their unbeaten run at home. We then beat Tottenham at home, but come on lads, it's Tottenham, surely we've beaten them. We then ended the year by beating Everton at Goodison Park, with Wood and Elanga bagging. We then kicked off the year by beating Wolves, with Morgan Gibbs-White, Wood and Awoniyi all bagging. Gibbs-White scoring at his previous club after they constantly slandered him, and Awoniyi grabbing his first goal of the season, even if it wasn't the prettiest one. It was then time for the FA Cup, and we were drawn against Luton at home. We were confident that we could progress past this side that was struggling in the Championship and has ultimately been relegated. It was a heavily rotated side, but we still won 2-0, with Ryan Yates and Ramon Sosa scoring those all-important goals to see us through to the next round. We then returned to the Premier League with a much-anticipated City Ground clash against Liverpool. We were still the only side to have beaten them at this point in the season, but unfortunately we just could not manage to do the double over them, as we ended up sharing the points 1-1. Their goal was a bit dodgy, you know, since when could you just push the keeper like that? But yeah, what's terrible refereeing in this league, man? It happens all the time. There's no point complaining because nothing will happen about it anyway. We still got a point out of it at the very least, so nothing to really complain about there. We then followed that up with a 3-2 win over Southampton. We did make it difficult for ourselves, but my god, the refereeing in that match did not make it any easier. I'm sorry, how did this player fall over himself and get a free kick out of it? And the amount of assault that was done to Gibbs-White as well, and the rest of our players, with nothing being given, is crazy, man. It's worst officiating I've seen in the Premier League this season, because it was terrible. But you know what? 3 points is 3 points. And just for reference, Chris Wood, our top goal scorer, is now on his 14th goal of the season. Class. We then got battered 5-0 by Bournemouth, but we followed that up with an absolute thrashing of Brighton as we beat them 7-0. Our biggest league win in 34 years, with Dunk, Gibbs-White, Wood, Williams and Jota Silva all combining, with Wood taking home the match ball as well for his second Forest hat-trick, I believe. What a player, man. What a player. Back to the FA Cup now, and we had been drawn against League One side Exeter City away, and after putting 7 past Brighton, confidence was high. Also, they're in League One, so, you know, there are levels to this football pyramid. The Grecians made things really tough for us though, as the game ended 2-2. However, Forest won on pens to secure qualification to the next round. But fair play to Exeter, you made that a very hard watch and you deserved every minute of football that you played. We could have done with it ending in the 90, but we just didn't feel like it, you know? For some strange reason, our keeper dropped a stinker so bad that he went off injured. Just Forest things. We then followed that up with a 2-1 loss to Fulham, with the Cottagers doing the double over us once again. We then went on to lose 4-3 to Newcastle, with us conceding those 4 goals in about 11 minutes. Just embarrassing, quite frankly. We could have pulled it back in all fairness, but there just wasn't enough time. A strangely short amount of added time added on when Forest were the dominant team during that second half. We could have equalised, but they said no. Strange. But we returned home against Arsenal to only manage a 0-0 draw. But at least it's not a loss. So that's good. And Arteta counted as a win because he took more points from us than Liverpool did. But Liverpool are top of the league and you're not. So don't really know why you're yapping about that, Mr. Lego Hairman. But we're going back to the FA Cup now. And we drawn Ipswich at home. We'd already beaten them this season at the City Ground. So things were looking up. But once again, it went to penalties. The game ended 1-1. But it was Forest who once again won the penalty shootout in classic Forest fashion. We fucking love taking it to penalties, don't we? It's not like our players are tired, alright? We love penalties. Bloody hell. We returned to Premier League action, hosting Manchester City at the City Ground, and we beat them, with Callum Hudson-Odoi scoring another massive goal for Forest as we won 1-0. Our first win against Manchester City in 27 years. We then took a trip to Suffolk, where we beat Ipswich 4-2, doing the triple over the newly promoted side. Sorry lads, but if you give us Liam Delap, all would be forgiven. But I think he's going to fucking Chelsea, isn't he? Yeah. I just want Liam Delap, boys. Is that too much to ask? Is that really too much to ask? It was time for more FA Cup action this time as we travelled to Brighton, looking for a place in the semi-finals. And I'm sure you can guess what happened here. The game finished 0-0, with Forest once again taking the game to penalties. And of course, Nottingham Forest were shootout victors once again, winning 4-3. And with that, Forest were through to their first FA Cup semi-final since 1991 on the hallowed turf of Wembley. Oh, I'm fucking excited. With semi-final qualification secured, it was time to return to league action, where we hosted a struggling Manchester United side and came out with all 3 points, winning 1-0. Lovely stuff. It was the former Man United man Elanga scoring the only goal of the game with this incredible break about 10 minutes in. This game also saw Ola Aina injured, which was just not good news. We then travelled to Birmingham, where we lost 2-1 to Villa, and we then played hosts to Everton, in which we lost to the Toffees 1-0 with a last-minute goal from Doucouré. Yeah, this was one of the worst games of football I've seen Forest play this season. And the fact we couldn't get at least a point against this Everton team it's not great, I'll say that much. Especially at home. Especially after we battered them at their own gaff as well. Truly disappointing. It was then a trip to London where we visited the floundering Spurs, who were pretty much focused on Europe at that point, where we ran out 2-1 winners. But again, we made it very hard work for ourselves as we gave them a goal. But 3 points is 3 points, and I'll take it. Just like that, it was FA Cup time once again. The FA Cup semi-final. We were drawn against Manchester City and were playing them at Wembley. With Aina still out, Zach Abbott was given the nod to start. He's an academy lad, and what a debut you can make playing at Wembley against Manchester City. And in all fairness, he played quite well before coming off injured. Oh, what a time to be alive. We're at Wembley playing a not that good Manchester City side with a genuine chance of going to the final. What more could you want? What a time to be alive. Oh, we've conceded within 2 minutes. Oh, what's that? We conceded within 6 minutes of the second half as well. Defenders scoring both of their goals. Oh, lovely. Despite the atrocious football we played, the atmosphere at Wembley was just incredible. But you don't win goals based on atmosphere or tickets sold. We just couldn't score those all-important goals to actually make the game competitive. It wasn't for a lack of trying. We had many attempts on goal, especially in the second half. but we just could not score a goal. It just wouldn't go in for us. So unfortunately, our FA Cup journey has come to an end. And so it was time to focus on the league and aim to secure Champions League football. We followed up the exit out of the FA Cup with a 2-0 home loss to Brentford. Nice. We then shared the points with Palace in London as we came from behind in a 1-1 draw. We then welcomed the already relegated Leicester City to the City Ground, in which we drew 2-0 after Leicester went ahead in the first half. I don't want to talk about it. We then made our final trip up to London as we visited the struggling West Ham, who just had nothing to play for. And we won 2-1. Although it took VAR a really long time to decide to give our second goal. As far as I can see, there was nothing wrong with it. There was a player in an offside position, but he didn't interfere with play at all. So that shouldn't have affected the goal. All that faff just to give us the goal anyway, which we knew had stood. I thought VAR was supposed to speed these things up. It was time for the final game of the season. We welcomed Chelsea to the City Ground with Champions League football on the line. If results went our way and we beat Chelsea, Nottingham Forest would qualify for the Champions League. All we needed was either Villa to lose to Manchester United, who just lost in the Europa League, or for Newcastle to lose to Everton. Or both. We just needed to beat Chelsea at home. Aston Villa lost 2-0 to Manchester United, and Newcastle lost 1-0 to Everton. It was really going to happen, boys. The results had gone our way. Finally, they hadn't for the whole season, but this was it. The final most important games of the season. And Chelsea beat us 1-0. Forest were the better side in the first half, but Chelsea came out swinging in the second and grabbed a goal that was enough for them to claim all 3 points. We missed out on not only Champions League football, but Europa League football as well, dropping down to the Conference League. And we had to celebrate with the players after losing. It just felt a bit weird. But hey, Europe is Europe, baby. The first European competition since 1996. I'll bloody take that. It was a disappointing end to such a brilliant season, but if you gave me 7th and the Conference League at the start of the season, I would have taken that in a heartbeat. But just being 3rd for so long, you can't help but feel disappointed. We just fell away when it mattered most. Now you could argue that's down to not making enough signings and the players being tired. I would agree with you, but whatever the reason, we still had a good season. And we're still playing European football next season, so it's not all doom and gloom. I know in the Forest fan base, we love a meltdown, we love a head loss, but we've got European football next season. We finished comfortably. Chris Wood had a brilliant season, scoring 20 Premier League goals this season, making it his most prolific season since he played for Leeds in the Championship back in 2016-17. But what it did confirm was his most prolific season in the top flight, and he was the first player to do so in the top flight in 30 years. Also, the addition of the Serbinator in Milenkovic next to Murillo strengthened our backline to no end, conceding only 46 goals and helped Sells claim the Golden Glove with 13 clean sheets. Matt Sells is the first player outside of a traditional Big Six club to do so. Congratulations, man. Also, a massive shout out to Nico Williams too. What a player he has been this season. Absolutely phenomenal. I cannot believe that there were talks about loaning him out at the start of the season. Thank God we didn't, because he has been absolutely phenomenal. My personal player of the season, I don't mind that Milenkovic won it, but Nico Williams was my vote because he has been amazing and added a few goals to his game as well. Come on, the lad. Also, Morgan Gibbs-White became the first Forest player to represent England in 27 years, whilst Murillo became the first ever Forest player to represent Brazil. Absolutely mental. And it's been a historical season for Nottingham Forest across the board. Our women's team won a double, not only securing promotion by winning the Northern Premier Division and going invincible, but also winning the FA Women's National League Cup. Incredible scenes. Our B team also achieved international success by winning the Premier League International Cup against Lyon. You know, they help us out of our PSR issues, and then we go and beat their youth team in the PL Cup. Wouldn't have it any other way. We won it via a penalty shootout in true Nottingham Forest fashion. It was a great tie at the City Ground, which I attended, really enjoyed it, very fun atmosphere as well. The future is very bright for our boys in red. What a team we've got, what a young crop of players we've got as well. I'm very excited to see where they go, and hopefully we see some of them turn out in the Garibaldi in the coming seasons. And finally, the men's team. We secured a place in the UEFA Conference League, which was the club's first European competition since 95-96. We claimed 3 points at Brentford, Spurs and West Ham for the first time ever, whilst also winning at Anfield for the first time in 55 years. We also beat Man City for the first time in 27 years, and also completed a double over Manchester United for the first time since the 91-92 season. Our 7-0 victory against Brighton was our biggest league win for 34 years, and all of this contributed to us becoming the first team to double their points tally from one season to the next. We also reached the semi-final of the Emirates FA Cup for the first time since 1991, as I mentioned earlier. What an incredible season it has been, and it's already filling me with excitement for the future. Our first season of European football in a very long time, and my first time experiencing it with Nottingham Forest. And I'm sure it's going to produce some brilliant memories under the lights at the City Ground and at various venues across Europe. And I just can't wait. Nottingham Forest are back. Come on, you Reds.